And a number of years ago, when I first started in law enforcement, I actually ran, when I worked for Sheriff Edwards, I was the one leaving the Capitol building carrying the torch down the steps, down through, and I was supposed to meet the City of Olympia downtown 4 blocks and hand the torch off. The City of Olympia didn't show up. So I had to run downtown from the Capitol building to downtown at 4th, and I got down there and there was nobody there. Then they told me the next group was going to meet up at the top of 4th, up by the Ralph Stritch Way. Nobody showed up there either. And Olympia didn't show up that day. So I had to run all the way out to Martin Way where the old Kmart's at out there. I was about ready to die, and I was young, man. I could go pretty good. After coming up that hill, it was like Heartbreak Hill. I got all the way up there by Kmart, and I was just about ready to cave. And this van pulled over, and Deputy Rod Dietrich was with Lacey PD then. And Rod jumps out of the van and goes, "You look pretty ugly." I said, "Hey, thanks." He goes, "I'll take it from here." And Lacey ran it out Martin Way, and I think that year we got in trouble because we ran it up the freeway, and I frankly forgot to tell somebody, so we had I-5 and everything was all messed up. We had a great time with it. And then when I moved over here, it wasn't happening. We'd never done this torch run. And so Rex every year at Waspic stands up and talks about the Special Olympics torch run and gives a great presentation. And I told my jail chief, I said, "I've always wanted to do that." He goes, "Really, how bad?" I said, "No, I'm really bad." So he stood up in front of everybody. Mason County's doing it this year. He said, "I hope you want to do it." So that's what got us started a couple of years ago. And I'll tell you, it is, I would say for those of us that are participating from law enforcement, I think it's more meaningful for us to be able to do something like this in the community than it is for even the athletes that get to go participate. It means a lot for us to be able to contribute back. So thank you for that. And this morning, I'm going to turn this over to Rex to introduce how that Special Olympics Washington is and what he's going to do today. But I want to welcome retired police chief and currently training department, Criminal Justice Training Commission, Rex Caldwell.
Okay, first things first. Let's prove to my boss that I was here.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. I really appreciate it. As far as WASPIC goes, for the cops in the room, WASPIC, the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. I've been a member for many, many years. I was very honored to be selected as a life member, which is kind of a big deal. And it's nice to see you here, Mr. Director. I can attest to that. When I go to WASPIC conferences, they see me coming down the halls and I get avoided because they'll roll their eyes and kind of duck away or check their watch or their phone or something because they hear this every year, constantly. What I'm going to do today is just a real quick introduction to myself and then run through what the torch run is, talk a little bit about final leg in Washington from USA Games last year, my last trip to Abu Dhabi, and I'll close with a little bit of information about the torch run for this year. First off, as Casey said, I'm Rex Caldwell. I'm a retired police chief. May 1st will be my 38th anniversary in law enforcement. I'm also second generation. 35 years active duty with the cities of Kirkland, 5 years as the chief with Mukilteo. Upon retirement, big air quotes around retirement, I went to CJTC where I'm the BLIA commander. That's the Basic Law Enforcement Academy commander. What I would offer for the retirees in the room, those left checks are very nice. I just got my 44th left check at the end of the month, and that's a lot of money over the last few years for not working. For the guys still in here, there is hope. There is hope, but put away a little extra. First off, here's some information about the torch run. So you don't have to look at me. There's going to be some stuff on the wall here. More than 140,000 police officers from around the world participate in this every year. More than 47 countries participate. It is on almost every continent, and I think they've even pulled off one in Antarctica once. It's driven by, as it says here, mutual respect, admiration, love, and joy. I started this journey in 1985. The torch run started in 81. The reason I got involved was a good friend of mine, Dawn Bilodeau, was a 911 dispatcher with the city of Kirkland. Her sister, Nancy, who always preferred to be called Nanny Goat, was an athlete. And so when the torch run came to town, we had absolutely no idea what it was. Somebody said, show up, here's a t-shirt, hold this torch, run that direction, not unlike what the sheriff said. And we ran through the mean streets of Kirkland back in the early 80s, and we handed it off to the city of Bellevue, and that's the last we really thought of it. But like many of you who are here, Once you get to know the athletes, once you understand what it is all about, you are hooked for life. I've been involved for many, many, many years, and what I find is two things. I get a lot from the athletes, and our profession gets a lot from this association. This is the most important piece of this. Not the money's nice and it gets athletes some opportunities to do stuff, but also there is a mutual respect. Really importantly to me, as a police officer, as a police chief, as a police professional, as a trainer, we build relationships. Sometimes those folks with intellectual disabilities have a distrust of others. Uniforms are scary. People see what's going on TV and they associate all of us with some bad news. But when we as police officers get those associations and we understand what the intellectual disabilities are all about, we can help them when they are in crisis, because we have built relationships outside of crisis times. And that's one of the most important pieces of this. It's also about raising awareness of people's abilities, different abilities. You go to the games and you see people who are doing athletic challenges of all kinds, and it's a lot of fun to watch, it's a lot of fun to participate. This is kind of entertaining here. The first year this was done in 1981, Chief LeMunyon, Wichita, Kansas, he had a few of his officers said, can we run the torch with the games? They ran it a short distance, the games happened, he received a couple of phone calls from business owners like those in the room who asked, what can we do to help? He said, I don't know, give me some cash. The first year, 6 cops raised $300. Last year, 2017, the full numbers are in, $58 million. If you see this little number at the bottom, more than $750 million raised by law enforcement, criminal justice professionals around the world for these games. I'm going to put that in perspective. I thought I saw somebody had a fire logo on. No offense. Everybody loves the firefighters, big red trucks, Dalmatians, all sleeping overnight, ice cream, all that happy stuff that they do. And what's super important about that is they do their little charity thing, which they get out in traffic, and what do? They stop cars and they shake their little booties, right? And they raise good money. In the last 60 years, they've raised $500 million for muscular dystrophy. Thank you for that, for the firefighters that do that, because it's really important. But when you put that into perspective, in the last 38 years, law enforcement's raised a lot of money and nobody's talking about it. I'm here to tell you, you guys are doing an awesome job. Keep it up. We work together to support Special Olympics. A couple of quotes here from police officers. Well, some of us didn't start out with a personal involvement with Special Olympics. No one ever leaves without something very personal. I'm a better person, I'm a better father, I'm a better cop because of what Torch Run has done. Just to see the excitement and the energy level and how much it meant to the athletes, I knew it was something I wanted to be part of. And we can pass the microphone back around, and everybody that's been involved in this at any time will have a quote of their own. A little bit of an overview. Year-round training in sports for what Special Olympics does. Approximately 2% of the global population has some form of intellectual disability. That's about 200 million people. It is around the globe, and these opportunities by law enforcement give the chance for folks to participate. It was founded in 1968 by Eunice Kennedy Shriver. Here's a little bit of information for you. It's a global brand, lots and lots of competitions. For USA Games last year, we had how many athletes? Like 3,500? 4,000 athletes last year from all 50 states that came to Seattle and participated in the games. It was a very big deal, very exciting. Worldwide supporters. Here's just a few things. I'm going to offer something that's not in this particular presentation. There are healthy athletes programs. If you go to the big games, like at summer games at PLU, or any of these other really big games, you will see that they have tents set up. Orthopedists, dentists, hearing doctors, eye doctors. What do they call them? Optometrists. Yeah, those guys. They'll show up, and the athletes have an opportunity to come in to get a health checkup. And some of the families don't have a lot of money, and this is their health checkup for that year. and they get free glasses, free shoes, free dental care, free hearing aids. It's an amazing program. Not something a lot of people hear about. They think, oh, we're going to go to the games, we're going to watch them run around in a circle, and everybody claps and somebody gets a medal. These are life-saving, life-altering opportunities for health and wellness. Started in, as I mentioned, 1981. The first games, a short run with a torch with some athletes. It turned into a global movement. That's what I want to say. Let me get right here. This is our 38th anniversary this year. That says $659 million, $733 million since then, and it is now in all 50 states and 47 total countries. So I'm going to talk about some of the events that happened. Last year there were more than 4,000 events around the United States alone. That's an event, like 30 events a week is what they estimated. If some of you may remember when it came to Alderbrook Resort just last year. Here's the torch coming in to the event. And there's our very own sheriff leading the Pledge of Allegiance with our athletes singing the national anthem, and Under Sheriff Ryan in the background there. That was a beautiful day. I don't know how you arranged that weather so well. 'Cause it was
It's always nice in Mason County.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Look at here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You gotta come down here out of the city more often.
We don't get this. We don't get this in the big city. But I gotta say, Mason County rocks. Casey and I have had this conversation many times about how much overwhelming support there has been in this area, how much the agency has come out to help out, how much the community has come to help out as well. So I want to say thank you all. I'm going to talk a little bit about a recent experience. I was very, very fortunate to have been selected to go to the United Arab Emirates for the World Games. The World Games were all over the United Arab Emirates, the Middle East. There are 7 total Emirates. The big names that you would recognize right away are Dubai and Abu Dhabi. 120 of us on this team with the officers from 24 countries assembled. I was the representative for Washington State. It was my great honor to be the representative for 18,500 of our athletes, for all 20,000 of our police and corrections officers in this state, to be on the world stage and have the opportunity to just go be myself with a whole bunch of friends that I had never met before. 10 teams of 10 people. We had athletes from 7 different countries. We had cops from 24 different countries. And the Abu Dhabi and Dubai cops showed up on the first day standing around looking kind of like this. They had no idea why they were there. They had been told by their command staff, you look like you could run, show up in the hotel in Abu Dhabi, bring an overnight bag for 10 days, and they were assigned to teams. Within 3 days, we were fast friends, and they were leading the charge, and we were learning their songs and learning more about everything that there was to know about their country. We ran only 23 miles, but we drove 600 miles. And I would tell you honestly, you put this many people right here, about 120 people into 5 little buses, it gets very friendly, it gets very smelly, and you gotta stop for bathrooms a little bit more often than we had the opportunities to. Anyway, about that. So on my team, we had this young gentleman here on your right. That is Hung Chow. He is an athlete from Hong Kong. Spoke some English, a lot of Chinese. We had translators. On our total teams, as I mentioned, 24 countries, each team 10 people. These are the folks on the left there enjoying a little break at a park. We had a trooper from Delaware, a patrol officer from Maine, a patrol sergeant from Billings, Montana, a gentleman from Idaho, somebody from Western Australia, and somebody from Georgia. Very good opportunity to meet some folks. I was extremely fortunate on March 10th, which was my 59th birthday, to do a speech in Dubai at Festival City. And I don't have any video of that, which is probably fortunate for you because you just hear me droning some more. But here's just a few pictures from the games. Everywhere you went, you saw the global community. 7,500 athletes assembled with 22,000 volunteers. Volunteers from all over the 7 Emirates that came together to make this happen. On opening night, 70,000 people came together in the Coliseum there, the arena, fireworks, and the thing that struck me most, ladies and gentlemen, was 195 countries participated. 195 countries participated. Some of these countries, as you've seen the Olympics, you've seen the Special Olympics, they come down, somebody's carrying the sign from Andorra, or Uganda, or Ghana, or the United States. As they came down the ramp, the 70,000 people in that place went mad. Every time they announced a new country, everybody clapped. And what really impressed me the most was everybody clapped for every single country that came down that ramp. The athletes don't give a rat's rear end about politics. They are there to have a good time, to hang out, to participate with the love and the joy, determination, and inspiration that comes with being an athlete. Not a special athlete, but simply being an athlete. I was counting them down, and I kind of watched, and I saw the Middle Eastern countries come down, the Asian countries come down, and everybody clapped. And even when Israel came down, everybody clapped. When the United States came down, they clapped. When the UAE came in, they lost their minds, of course, because that's the home country. But it was very inspirational. For the cops in the room, I could put up about another 24 pictures, but I thought this was kind of interesting. The patrol car on the upper left is a brand spanking new Porsche Macan, little SUV. We saw Maserati patrol cars. We saw Ferrari patrol cars. You know, the kind of stuff that you get with only the kind of money you have in Mason County.
Commissioner? Just a second, Rex. Commissioner?
Yeah.
I'm just making sure you're...
Yeah.
I saw you look the other way. I just wanted to pay attention.
But having seen all of those patrol cars, their everyday drivers were BMW 5 Series or Mercedes 300 Series. And if I'm moving around too much, I'm sorry, I just get excited about this stuff. The yellow car, for the cops in the room, this is awesome. That is a 2019 Corvette Stingray, and it is fitted with the livery of their Civil Defense Group, which is their fire department and/or Homeland Security. In the back of this fire truck is a halon system where they can get through traffic pretty fast for a car fire. They can get through traffic really fast, and they pull out that orange hose that's in the middle of the trunk, hit the switch, and they can put out a couple of cubic meters of halon to put out a car fire on the side of the freeway. That's a gig I'd like to try. This picture I will share. This absolutely struck me as hilarious. We were extremely fortunate that the UAE government was footing the bill for most of this stuff. Special Olympics Washington paid for my airline ticket and some other stuff. I raised enough money to pay them back twice over because that's the important part of how this works. But that's my laundry. I threw a bag of t-shirts or jogging shorts and socks into the laundry, and it came back, each one individually washed and pressed. And it's very impressive because hard to see, but that is one pair of socks hermetically sealed in a bag. Because that's what you get when you go to 5-star hotels and not Motel 6, apparently. I'm not sure what the service level is here, but I'm pretty sure that they don't put your individual socks in a hermetically sealed bag. The UAE government paid for every single one of those athletes to attend that could not otherwise pay to attend themselves. Tiny countries brought lots of people. I'm going to talk about Mongolia here just for a moment. But the Mongolian team that I'll talk about in just a moment brought 50 people. Mongolia is a very poor country. But the UAE government thought it was important enough for these World Games that they paid for ground transportation, hotels, and food for every single participant that needed the money. If you could get there and you had your uniform, you participated. It was terrific. What was particularly interesting about that to me was my skeptical, jaded 40 years of police experience, second generation law enforcement mind as an American was, that's a heck of a marketing ploy. Get your money out there to show people how much money you've got and that you're progressive and that you're responsible. And then I put that immediately away because I went right back to all of those people clapping for every one of those countries. It was a global event of really epic proportion, and they did a lot of work to help them out. This picture is the Grand Mosque, the 4th largest mosque in the world. We had an event across the street from that. It was an amazing event. The whole World Games was truly terrific. It's exactly like what you did here at Alderbrook, Bill Casey, in as much as cops coming together with an athlete and running the torch just simply to raise awareness and raise some funds. Very, very briefly. About 2 years ago, I ran into a woman who works for Special Olympics Mongolia. She'd come to Washington State to talk with us about how we do our programs. And as we are all prone to do, we have these casual conversations and we offer to help somebody out. Hey, you know, so if you're ever in Mongolia, you should stop by the office. And I said, well, if I'm ever there, I'll come out and I'll talk to your police academy what torch run is. And she called me on it. And about 6 months later, I found myself in Ulaanbaatar. This is the team from Mongolia. Self-funded trip. Please don't think that your donations do anything about this. But here's a couple of the athletes. The gentleman on the left, his name is Yurlat. The guy on the right is Miga. And we had the opportunity to go to a Healthy Athletes, Healthy Communities event. About 200 people in a big gymnasium. And we're sitting there, and I do a very brief presentation, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching them talk about autism, about Down, about other opportunities that are available to them. And I watched this woman in traditional dress off at the side of the gymnasium start to cry. And I'm going to try to get through this without crying myself. And you don't have to speak a language to understand when another human being is in pain, because that's what we do as police officers, corrections officers, dispatchers, whatever your role in this hootenanny is. We are here to help people and to be of service. And as I watched her start to fall apart, I went over, I gave her a bottle of water and a couple of napkins and a smile, because I didn't know what I could possibly say to her to make her feel better. And then I pointed her out to somebody I was with who went and comforted her. What I found out later was she had an 11-year-old daughter, and her 11-year-old daughter was very slow in school and had been having a lot of difficulties, and had only been diagnosed with autism 2 years earlier, because when she was a little kid, they just told her she had hearing problems, or that she had some other issues. She never got the services that she needed, because she didn't even know the services were available. This town was so far away from the capital. So watching her learn that there were people that gave her, people that cared, people that could provide services, and had the opportunity to come to her and talk about it was astounding. This is the event. I'm going to try and hope this little video works here. You're going to see the first ever torch run in Mongolia. Those two athletes I introduced are going to bring it in here, hopefully. No, we're going to try this one more time here. Excuse me. How come this stuff always works when you set it up? Okay, that was terrific, Rex. That was really inspiring. What you would have seen had it worked was two guys bringing a torch in. It's a little electric torch with a light and some little plastic flames that flicker. And they walk it in, and it's the first time they've ever done a torch run of any type, or introduced the torch in Mongolia. Here's a couple of the athletes. You can see here this gentleman on the right, again, Miga, is there with a much younger athlete, being an ambassador and a leader and teaching the next generation. This was the Mongolian National Police Academy. Had the opportunity to speak to 125 of their leadership team and tell them what torch run is, what law enforcement's all about around the world. Got to meet the big boss and handed him a thin blue line American flag, which I had to spend considerable time explaining why we were doing that, but that's another story. And then on June 30th, 2 months after I was there, they did their first torch run. That is the police memorial in downtown Ulaanbaatar, and here are the 500 officers that showed up for the first ever torch run. Now, these are students, and I'm the BLEA commander, and you guys work at the State Patrol Academy or have gone through there, and you know how that works. The boss says, show up at this thing and do this deal. That's what they did. But 500 of them showed up as leaders and volunteers. And I'm gonna leave it with that because I could go on for much, much more. But if you have questions about what LETR is, what we do, or how this works, please, please, please reach out to me. And I'm gonna make the challenge here today. I'll donate my first $20 to starting your campaign here, and I will put this money on the table. Anybody that would like to donate is certainly welcome to do so. And with that, Casey, I'm going to introduce Ellie to talk a little bit about the state of Washington.
Good morning. My name is Ellie Hardwick. As I mentioned earlier, I am the Law Enforcement Torch Run Manager for Special Olympics Washington. So that is just a really fancy way of saying that I have the honor of getting to travel the state of Washington and work with all of the agencies. I help organize fundraisers and awareness campaigns with agencies to benefit Special Olympics Washington. We have 18,500 athletes in our state, and continuously in Washington we raise over 500,000 just through law enforcement. Rex obviously spoke of a lot of the international things that Special Olympics does, but we do a lot here in Washington as well. So rather than me rambling about it, we have an awesome video that fingers crossed is going to work.
Nice job.
Magic.
I felt inspired that I needed to be part of this team to come over and run 380 some miles across the state.
It sends a message to our athletes that they are worth investing in, and it sends a message to the rest of the community that we're part of the community and we're a valued part.
These athletes are just so amazing. They give their heart, you know, their soul and everything, and I've never met an athlete who didn't treat me with the utmost respect, and I just want to return that to them and tell them, you know, I care about you like you care about me.
To see a smile on people's faces, having fun, making friends, all of the excitement, the laughter in the air, you can feel it.
Law enforcement is kind of a brotherhood for all my extended family, brothers and sisters in blue, to come and give back to something that means so much to me. It makes me very happy and grateful.
So what you just saw was a glimpse of what we call our 4 signature events. The most symbolic with the Law Enforcement Torch Run is, of course, our actual torch run. And watching Mason counties grow the last couple of years has been so wonderful. So I want to thank Sheriff for leading the charge, but there are a lot of agencies out on the peninsula here that are involved in it. And so thank you. What you do does make a difference, and these athletes can tell you right now. It's wonderful work that you do. And I now want to introduce you to Lieutenant Jeannie Elton. She's with the Kitsap County Sheriff's Department. She is the regional coordinator for the peninsula. So we have an executive council made of law enforcement volunteers that oversee the Law Enforcement Torch Run campaign in Washington. And then we have regional coordinators who oversees 4 counties out on the peninsula, and Mason County being one of them. So she's here to just kind of share a little bit about what's going on and introduce herself and use her as a resource.
Good morning. You know, it's so inspiring to see Rex talk about the big things that he's doing and some of my other friends in Special Olympics law enforcement are doing. I always call myself the baby volunteer. I do the small things, but I'm here to speak to you all and implore you to consider joining me in that little movement. I've been a volunteer for Special Olympics for about a decade. I started with running a leg in the Law Enforcement Torch Run, and that was really fun. I didn't really understand the impacts of doing something as small as running a couple miles and raising a little bit of money through the purchase of a t-shirt, spreading the word of inclusion. I then started participating in Tip-A-Cops and raising money, and when I did that, I had a really good time with my friends in law enforcement, serving people at restaurants, raising a little money, getting to know local athletes over the years, learning their names, they learned mine, we became friends, we had a really good time, and we raised some money in Kitsap County. Eventually, I started to think about how I could make an actual impact, and it really weighed on my heart to try to help the people that I feel are exceedingly deserving and so grateful. And so I was able to start coordinating events, and people started to learn my name and ask for a little bit more of me. And I was able to then coordinate the torch run in Kitsap County. I've been doing that with all of the local law enforcement, to include District 8, who I'm very grateful for. That's right.
Best
and-
troopers, right?
That's right.
In the whole state.
In Bremerton.
District 8.
Yes. And so we had a really good time. Eventually, I was asked by a local athlete if I would consider running with him in the Special Olympics. And that was probably one of the most profound volunteering experiences of my life. Earning a medal, running, he was dragging me about 3 miles, we got through it. And so we had a really great time, and I passed the torch to my son because he's much faster than I, he's 12. And so he runs now in the Special Olympics with a partner. And so I'm here to just invite you to consider a way to which that you could join us here in on the Olympic Peninsula, especially with an upcoming event that I'm helping coordinate. Run with the Cops, we did it for the first time in Kitsap County last September. And we had an ostentatious goal of raising $10,000 in this event. And we raised just over $15,000 for local athletes in the state of Washington. It's Run with the Cops. It's a super fun event, family friendly, and I would love to see some of y'all come out and run with us in your uniform or something that identifies you as a police officer. We had lots of fun volunteers, but we didn't have as many cops as I would like to see. We did have 2 troopers though, and it was super cool, wearing t-shirts out of Bremerton. And so if you're interested in participating in that event, please just see me. And if you have any questions about volunteering locally, I'm here to help. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Okay, folks, I'm going to wrap up here. A couple of things real quickly. Thank you very much for your attention today, and I'll pass the mic back to the Sheriff in just a moment. I hope you don't think this is about Rex, because it's certainly not. This is about Special Olympics. As Jeannie said, you can do things very locally. I do a lot of stuff locally, but I've had some super exciting opportunities to really be an ambassador and spread the word. So, back over here, wave to us there, ladies. They have some t-shirts, last year's and then this year's bottle. In case you would like to buy one, they're back there. And also, if you look at the back, we have the Circle of Honor with Mason County on here for their efforts. So thank you very much for your time. There's a couple of things I want to end with here. Maya Angelou is one of my favorite writers. She made a comment once talking about people may not remember what you did or what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. So thank you for making us feel welcome.